This was a roller coaster. Aided by a taciturn bodyguard, Kingfisher.
I hate coming to you guys with bad news.
30% mark.
And it's got like really weird gay tension.
I'm 20% in. It is delicious.
My friends, the time has come. If you hear someone shuffling in the background making weird noises, it's the man I live with. It's time. What do you say? We read a couple arcs. I have obviously a physical arc. I have my NetGalley is looking rough. I was very fortunate to be approved to for quite a few arcs, and now my ratio is horrific, so we have to fix that. And I just got off, I just finished reading Oathbound, and I'm taking it as a great sign that 2025 new releases are gonna hit. I'm hoping. So we're just going to read as many as we can in the amount of time I have to film. Obviously, I think I want to start with the one that most people seem to be most interested in. I just finished, and I will review an Erin A. Craig. Another one, I feel like she just, like, authors are just popping stuff out. Yeah, I've got quite a few really interesting ones that I'm excited about. So we're gonna dive in. The Sunrise on the Reaping, I'm not rushing to read that, to be honest. I feel like I was definitely a Hunger Games girl, but I don't know why I don't feel the immense obsession. Like, I had friends breaking down the doors to get into Barnes & Noble or their local bookstores to get it the second it came out. So I'm not there. Love it for the people who are. But so yeah, that just came out this week, so I'm not going to be talking about that. But shall we dive into our first book? Also, welcome. How are you? Hi. Katabasis. I remember when everyone was really excited for Katabasis, and then RF Kuang did one interview where she said Katabasis, and everyone panicked. So I know that either way, I'm not pronouncing it correctly, but Katabasis is how we're gonna say it. Now, I was so fortunate, thank you so much to HarperCollins, specifically my girl Rain. I don't know how you managed this, but I got a copy of one of the limited arcs. There were 200 of them. I am number 46.
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
You can make noise. I have my microphone blocks everything out. Yeah. Okay, he's off to work. Katabasis. So according to this arc that we've got, we have Katabasis, noun, ancient Greek. The story of a hero's descent to the underworld, number 46 of 200, by Harper Voyage. Final cover to be released. I think I actually got this the day that the cover dropped. I got this quite late. Traveled all the way to New York to get it. You can watch the vlog. I'll link it down below. And then on the back, this, I'm kind of cringing already, so I'm a little worried. The back quote says, "Alice Law, you naughty girl, you're trying to go to hell." And it says, this says it's coming out August 2025. I think that's still correct. And once again, like, if you don't know about arcs, these are not the 110% approved going to the publisher's version. So there can be changes made from an arc. So I'll just read you the fine print, which is common for pretty much every arc that you come across for reviewers. It says, reviewers are reminded that changes may be made to this proof copy before the books are printed. If any material from the book is to be quoted in a review, the quotations should be checked against the final bound book. Dates, prices, and manufacturing details are subject to change and cancellation without notice. I'm not going to read any direct quotes, probably not from this book. I'm just going to give you a vague sense of how I feel. That's what we're going to do. Let's see what it says on Goodreads. Hold on. Once again, a disclaimer. I go into all of these books with an open heart, even ones I end up immediately hating. I read everything. There's never anything that's like, unless it's very, very dark romance, which I just don't read. I go into books with assuming that I'm probably gonna like them, right? Like, I don't like dark romance. I don't like self-help. So I don't read those. But if it's like a romantasy, I feel like some people think that I go into romantasies and I like hate read, and I don't. Like, I genuinely, there are some romantasies that I adore, and there are some romantasies that I just don't like. But I go into everything with an open mind and heart. So that's what I'm doing with all of these. But these are all authors that I'm quite interested in anyway. So I kind of feel like I'm going in with, if anything, a positive bias. My background with RF Kuang. I I still haven't read The Poppy War, okay? I'm so sorry. I still haven't read The Poppy War, but I have read Babel. I have read Yellowface. Is that it? Why do I feel like I've read so many RF Kuang books? Anyway, my only issue with RF Kuang's writing is that she tends to, I can't tell if sometimes it's a little tongue-in-cheek. Let me move you down. I feel like you're so far away from me. I think especially in Yellowface, there was like a very dark layer of humor to it. So sometimes I think it's intentional, but other times, especially with Babel, I feel like she's a little just heavy-handed with what she's trying to say. She really wants to make sure that the reader is picking up what she's putting down. I think make the reading experience richer if she maybe held back a little bit and let us use our brains just a bit. So that's been my like main issues. Also, famously, my copy of Babel was totally messed up. So the reading experience for me was, I think, a little different than other people because just my ebook was whack. So that's really my only bias that I'm bringing into this book is just, I believe this is categorized as adult. So like, let us adult readers use our brains. Okay? In we go. All right. Oh, this is much better. Why wasn't I sitting like this the whole time? Katabasis. It is currently not yet published, expected on August 26th. 2025. It has 334 ratings with 511 reviews. It's sitting at a 4.19. So what we're dealing with, Dante's Inferno meets Susanna Clarke's Piranesi in this all-new dark academia fantasy from RF Kuang, the #1 New York Times bestselling author of Babel and Yellowface, in which two graduate students must put aside their rivalry and journey to hell to save their professor's soul, perhaps at the cost of their own. Alice Law has only ever had one goal: to become one of the brightest minds in the field of magic. She sacrificed everything to make that a reality: her pride, her health, her love life, and most definitely her sanity, all to work with Professor Jacob Grimes at Cambridge, the greatest magician in the world. As I was reading it, I thought it said her pride, her teeth, her love life. I was like, she doesn't have teeth? Okay. Anyway, that's Alice. All she's wanted to do is work with the greatest magician in the world. That is, until he dies in a magical accident that could possibly be her fault. Grimes is now in hell, and she's going in after him, because his recommendation could hold her very future in his now incorporeal hands. And even death is not going to stop the pursuit of her dreams, nor will the fact that her rival, Peter Murdoch, has come to the very same conclusion. With nothing but the tales of Orpheus and Dante to guide them, enough chalk to draw the pentagrams necessary for their spells, and the burning desire to make all the academic trauma mean anything, they set off across hell to save a man they don't even like. But hell is not like the storybooks say. Magic isn't always the answer, and there's something in Alice and Peter's past that could forge them into the perfect allies, or lead to their doom. I love when there's doom. Okay, so yeah, that's how we're going to start. I believe in interviews this has already been released, the first sentence, so I'm just going to read the first sentence, but a reminder that this could be changed in the next copy. Okay? Cambridge, Michaelmas term, October. The wind bit, the sun hid. And on the first day of class, when she ought to have been lecturing undergraduates about the dangers of using the Cartesian severance spell to revise without pee breaks, Alice Law set out to rescue her advisor's soul from the 8 courts of hell. Oop! Okay, also, did she just reference severance? Her mind. Okay, I'm going to dive in. I've got to make breakfast. We're going to get coffee. I'm going to read this. We're going to go to the movies. It's going to be a great day. This is how many pages does it say? This says 400 pages. Oh my God, I don't want to. Oh my God. My book is 540. Here we go. Quick update, I know it's loud. I'm on page 4. Perfection. We are right in the action. And the quote on the back of the arc that I said was kind of cringy, it is delivered in an uncringy way, I'm happy to announce. So we're all good. My worries, we're gone. pages 1 through 4. I just needed to pause to tell you that the naughty girl line was not as cringe as I thought. I'm into it. Okay, it's a little windy, so I'll be quick. I'm at 50 pages, so like 10% of the way through, and solid. So solid. It feels a little quick. I feel like she wants to get to where she's going. So the first chapter, chef's kiss. I would even say second chapter, chef's kiss. Now it's just getting a little like chop, 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 which I'll take it. It's fine. It's also, I just remember, it's just making me remember how much I love Ninth House, like a adult fantasy that takes place, like it's all about descending into hell and like that kind of magic system. Love it. Love it. So yeah, so far so good. Now I'm gonna go watch Companion, and yeah, just a lovely day. Very happy about this. Okay.
Because it makes us appreciate the other times.
Over the course of 4 paragraphs, RF Kuang has managed to talk about Morningwood, the embarrassment of having to poop, and how the map of hell looks like an anus. It's like, that's so much in so few words, Rebecca. Love a book with maps. Love a book with maps. Okay, friends, time for a check-in. I am on chapter 8, page 117. I just put a napkin for where the halfway point is. I find that, well, spoiler, when I start getting a little bored of a book, I like to give myself little reading goals. So I'm like, if I just reach the halfway point, you know? Okay, how do I describe how I feel about this book? This is really bizarre. So as I said, the first 1, 2, 3 chapters, excellent. I also forgot to mention how happy I was to have Peter, we have Alice and Peter, to have Peter be a nice guy. Alice is complaining about how much she hates Peter, and she's basically just like, yeah, he's handsome, he's super smart, really charming, and it's just effortless, like he never seems like he's trying, and he's so damn nice. He's never condescending. So I was like, yes, I love that. I love when there's an enemy, but you just can't help but love your enemy, you know? So yeah, I'm very much excited. The beginning, the setup, how we immediately started the action, I really enjoyed it. But now, as I said, I'm on page 117, and it's feeling very and then. Everything is just and then, and then, and then we see a wall, and then we climb the wall, and then we go to sleep, and then we see the first court of hell, and then we meet this weird guy. What did we even learn from that entire scene? I don't know. And then we see the river, and then we go for a walk, and then we see these demon dogs. And also, there's been very little work in terms of the characters. It almost feels like the characters are not the point. It's sort of like we're looking at this from a bird's eye view, and the characters are treated with the exact same way as the location. So the amount of work that RF Kuang puts into describing hell, she gives that or less to introducing us to the characters. Like, I feel like I know so much about all of these different steps we're taking through hell, and she just, probably when I last left you, when I was like, she's talking about pooping and anuses, from that point forward, so when was that? So from chapter 5 to chapter 8, which is about 30 to 40 pages, we have not had any character building. It's just been and then, and then, and then. What I thought was going to be like, oh, they're a team, you know, like the whole idea of this book is that these academic rivals go together and they have to team up to save their advisor. But we have seen nothing in terms of their relationship for at least 40 pages, which is like half of what I've read, which is really strange. I feel like our author had a lot of fun. I kind of said this with Babel too, but I feel like with Babel there was much more character growth. I'm holding out. I've still got, 75% of the book to go, but I felt with Babel too, she has a lot of fun researching, and that's great. Like, I'm learning a lot, actually. Like, that's quite cool, but I'd love it if she could make that equal to our characters as well. So it just kind of depends on, I'm a very character driven kind of reader, love a character driven plot, so I guess it just depends on what you're into. But yeah, if it's just feeling very like da 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 da, I'm just wondering when that beat is gonna change. It actually really reminds me, because she kind of mentions Lewis Carroll at one point because they're arguing about logic, and it kind of reminds me of, there's this book called Alice's Adventures in Quantum Land, I think it's called. I had it when I was in high school, when I thought that I was going to learn about quantum physics, and it's essentially like a retelling of Alice in Wonderland, but in order to teach you basics, very basics of quantum physics, and so like quarks and stuff like that. And this book is kind of feeling like that, where it's like, instead of reading a textbook, like, oh, wouldn't it be fun to read an academic rivals story kind of thing? That's just how it's feeling right now. Again, I'm holding out that it's gonna turn back around, because I thought where we were headed with those first chapters were so good. But yeah, and there's moments of brilliance, like when she's describing, like we get to the first court of hell, and she's describing how it's like a library, and talking about, I don't know, I just, as someone who's very much was like a teacher's pet and was just like very academically driven, I connect to a lot of this, but I just wish we would get more. I'm so interested in Alice and Peter, and I just don't know anything about them. Yeah. So that's where I'm gonna stop. I have to make myself a little dinner, and then I have to go to Pilates. I'm getting back into Pilates, and I went to my first class last week, and I am still sore from that class. So it's been a week. So I will see you either later tonight or tomorrow, when I am a limp noodle. Hopefully I will have the arm strength to lift this book and continue reading. So about 20% in. I don't know, man. I don't know. Catch you in a bit.
I hate coming to you guys with bad news. This started off so strong. So I made it. I dragged myself to the 50% mark. I'm on chapter 18, page 267. So I really stand by my claim that this book reads like Alice in Quantum Land. I feel like especially younger people perhaps would be excited to be introduced to a lot of these concepts and things like that, but none of it is really adding to the plot. Like I said, it's sort of like the plot is just this convenient way to continue to throw all of this information at you. It's not necessarily cohesive. We're getting more flashbacks as well. Like, again, we still don't really, there's no chemistry. The interaction we have between Peter and Alice, like zero chemistry. I think in the beginning there was one scene where Alice kind of helps Peter through a panic attack, and I was like, this is where it starts. This is where the chemistry begins. And yet, even when we get flashbacks and talking about how they actually used to be friends, like they loved working together and it was great, and then once their kind of project was over, Peter just kind of ghosted her. And okay, also, oh my god, remember how I spent like the whole beginning of this book when she's describing Peter, she's like, oh, I hate him, he's so nice and he's never condescending. Every time Peter is mentioned after that point, she describes him as condescending. There's a point where like Alice is not good with math. She's a linguist, whereas Peter is more into logic and more into the mathematics side of magic. And so he's trying to explain either like a paradox to her or something like that. And she tells him, can you please explain it to me like I'm 5? Direct quote. Please explain it to me like I'm 5. And then he does. And then Alice is like, ugh, he's being so condescending. He's acting like he's my tutor. And I'm like, girl, you just told him to tell it to you like you're 5 years old and you still didn't understand. So like, what? I don't know, man. Really not digging it at all. If it weren't if this was not written by RF Kuang, and if this were not a review I was trying to make for you guys, I would have DNF'd this at least 60 pages ago. Also, there's just randomly like weird stuff. How do I describe this? I just wish there was like a little bit of consistency, because the hell that they're in is hell is what you make of it, right? Hell is in the eyes of the beholder. So in their case, hell looks a lot like Cambridge. So like the first court they go into is the library. The second court they go into is like the student center. And so they're talking about the people that they see in there. What are their issues, their whatever. The second court is desire, and they go and they look through all of these rooms of like, what are these people's kind of vices, I guess. They start off kind of normal, like somebody was obsessed with applause, like they're standing in front of speakers and they're getting applause, and like that's what they desire, and so they're just kind of like, thank you, like in a daze. There's like really innocent stuff like that, and then all of a sudden she'll say something like it was like bestiality, like someone was performing oral sex on dogs. And it was like she was like listing like, we went into rooms and we saw this, this, and this. And it was like someone addicted to reality TV, someone addicted to applause, someone performing oral sex on dogs. I was like, what the fuck? Like, what? And then we just like moved on. I was like, that was bizarre. It would be okay if, as she's describing hell, there were like these really dark, evil things happening in hell. But for the most part, these crimes have been pretty reasonable. And then she just drops that in, just like in a list of people's vices. So I don't know, I'm just feeling like really off kilter. We're also like trying to find her professor, and they're trying to guess like, okay, what court would he be in? He obviously sinned in his life. Would he go to pride? Would he go to desire? Would he go to wrath? And she just keeps saying like, ugh, no, he's above all of these sins. Like he never desired things. He was like a monk. But she's also talking about how this man is like horrible and driving his students to suicide, and like, I don't know. I'm so confused. So anyway, I'm gonna try and finish this today, but I'm just really let down. I honestly had to look up reviews to see if I'm insane, and there are people who are on the same boat as me, but I did see a couple people say that it gets a little better later. I thought we were gonna start off on a high note. I was really excited. I'm very sorry. In I go. Thank God. I believe our new character, Elspeth, will save this story. No spoilers, but she was also a previous student or mentee of Grimes, and she has died. Obviously she's in hell, but she's interested in getting back to life. And Peter and Alice are like, but you don't want to do academia anymore, like you hated it. What on earth are you gonna do? Like, why do you even want to go back? And she's like, first of all, I have like parents and siblings and people I love. Peter's like, I mean, just like, have you thought of what you're gonna do when you get back up there? And Elspeth is like, guys, I'm gonna get a cup of coffee. I'm gonna eat cinnamon rolls. I'm gonna sit outside in the sun. What the fuck do you mean? What am I gonna do? She's trying to tell these poor babies that there's more to life than research, and I fear they have not gotten it yet. Okay, time has passed. I have changed. I have makeup on. We're gonna go outside because I need coffee. I have good news. I just read from 50% to 75%. I'm on page 406. Chapter 27. Chapters, I would say 18 to 22. Why didn't we have those so much earlier? So much earlier. When I'm saying like, I don't know anything about these characters, there's no chemistry, there's no blah, blah, blah. Why was that put in at the 50% mark? So I really enjoyed that. I would say from like 50 to 65% of the book was good. It was reminiscent of what the first couple of chapters were like. I'm at the last 25%. I'm gonna finish it out and about. So yeah, that's the good news, is it has gotten better. I feel like we're kind of slipping back down, but I did enjoy the middle bit. And I do like how oblivious Alice is to the fact that she is already in hell. When she comes across like weird things happening in hell, or like weird concepts and stuff like that, she is like unfazed. Or like Peter and Elspeth will be like, oh my God, why would anyone ever want that? And Alice is like, I would love to be able to forget my entire life. Like, wouldn't it be nice to erase certain parts of your being and stuff like that? And it's just like, Alice, baby, you're already living in hell. Like, that's why you're not fazed by anything. I hope she has her little eye-opening moment of realizing that. Let's go get coffee. My friends, the journey I have been on. Let me put my coat away. This was a roller coaster. I'm so happy I filmed a live reaction to this because speechless. Okay, you need words. So, as I said, great first 2 chapters. Adored it. RF Kuang's writing, loved. Last 2 chapters, equally as good. I gasped at one point, I think because honest to God, I spaced out. I was so checked out of this book. I was so done. I will say, I think I already said this, but from like 50% to like 65%, we were back, baby. I was like, yes, this is what I wanted, RF Kuang, thank you. And then we kind of slid backwards again into just, I think at this point I was just tired of not being attached to these characters. And so I will say, every scene that Elspeth is in, top tier. Once you see her come in, baby, you know that it's going to be a great scene. So I will say that there were scenes mixed in between that were really interesting. But for me, I was just so kind of bored that by the time we got to the climax, I was sort of like, okay, well, let's just finish this. And then things turn around. And RF Kuang from the first 2 chapters comes back. And I was like, genuinely in the cafe, I went, final verdict is, I think some people are going to really like it. I think some people are going to really hate it. And I think people like me are going to be confused. I just really wish that this was structured in a slightly different way. And I would have shaved quite a bit out of it. Kind of with Babel, I felt that way where she clearly loved the research, which in the beginning was quite fun, but then it just got a little too much. So yeah, that's my main complaint is the first 50%, there was so much in there that ended up not really mattering. And so like I said, very similar to Alice in Quantum Land, this felt like a fun textbook for the first 50%, which is fine, but I didn't sign up to read Alice in Quantum Land. I signed up to read Academic Rivals Go to Hell to Save Their Professor. And so I would have moved the kind of character growth, honestly, the character introduction that we get from like in the 50% mark, I would have loved to have had that earlier, because then I just feel like I would have understood these characters more. I would have been much more invested in their story, but instead they're just kind of these people who like, we were kind of friends and then we weren't and we just bicker and I'm really jealous of everything he does and that's that. When it's much deeper than that. And by the end, I think she manages to get me, obviously she got me hooked, but it took me 480 it took me 500 pages to like give a shit about their relationship, which is so sad. So, yeah, man, I wonder, that's my take. I liked the first 2 chapters and I liked the last 2 chapters and I liked Elspeth. I felt like a lot of this was kind of, maybe it was honestly cathartic. I feel like a lot of what RF Kuang writes about, I feel like it must be a kind of catharsis for her because every topic she covers is very personal to her. And with this one, with academia, a lot of it felt really personal. And so I wonder if a lot of the details in here that I felt were kind of not fluff, but I think she like sacrificed the plot a little bit so that she could go on these tangents. And I feel like those tangents and those musings were quite personal to her or to people she knows in her like academia life. Yeah, how weird. So that's Katabasis. I'm so sorry that I'm just baffled by this book. So excited to hear your thoughts. If you've already read the arc, let me know, but I will be ears open to your reviews in August. So, whoa. Let me take a drink because it's hot
now. It snowed 2 days ago, and now I guess spring is here. And before we dive into our next arc, I actually read one prior to starting to film this video that I want to talk about, and that is A Land So Wide by Erin A. Craig. Yeah, so she wrote House of Salt and Sorrow, House of Roots and Ruin, which I really liked, Small Favors, and The 13th Child. So she leans more like gothic in terms of her fantasies, and I believe, is Small Favors young adult? Yeah. Okay, so A Land So Wide, which is coming out in October, is, I believe, her first adult work. And if you liked Small Favors, I would give it a try. However, Katabasis had a rough first 50%. A Land So Wide had an impeccable first 50%, and then it went downhill. So let me read to you what it is supposed to be. Hold on. Oh my god, why is this summary so long? Okay, this is supposed to take place in Canada, like I think northern Canada. Like everyone else in the settlement of Mistaken, Greer Mackenzie is trapped. Founded by an ambitious Scottish lumber merchant, the tiny town on the edge of the American continent is blessed with rich natural resources that have made its people prosperous, but at a cost. The same woods that have lined the town folks' pockets harbors dangerous beasts, wolves, bears, and the bright-eyeds, monsters beyond description who have rained utter destruction down on nearby settlements. But Mistaken's founders made a deal with the mysterious benevolence. The warding stones that surround the town will keep the bright-eyeds out and the town's citizens in. Anyone who spends a night within Mistaken's borders belongs to it forever. I'm not going to read all of this. Greer, our main character, is a map maker. She is the daughter of kind of the head of the town council. She has always dreamt of seeing the big wide world, right? And she has this lover boy named Ellis, who's a baker. And they're planning on getting married. The town has this weird, like, it's called The Hunt. It's basically like all of the brides have to hide and the grooms have to seek, and like whatever bride you find is your bride. So they've like planned this out. They're gonna find each other. So they're gonna get married soon, and it's gonna be great. When suddenly these warding stones that protect the town, but also like if you're outside of the border at night, they like suck you back in. Like you have to be inside the borders of the town each night. What happens when those stones start to move and the town starts to get smaller and smaller, and people caught outside the borders are dying, and just like crazy stuff goes down? Greer has to get to the bottom of this and also save the baker boy that she loves. So this was very similar to Small Favors. It reminded me so much of like The Village by M. Night Shyamalan. I don't know why I love a creepy, almost cult-ish, early 18th, 17th century town. Like I love it. Like any second there could be a witch hunt, you know? I love that atmosphere, and she really, really captured it. And then the second half happened. I'm hoping that she still has 7 months before it gets published. I would love to hear that this is still going to go through a couple rounds of edits, because the second half felt so bare bones, whereas the first half was so rich, and you just immediately understood the characters and the village and the risks and all of these things. The second half, when it becomes really the fantasy part, like we're in the woods with these creatures, and it was so shallow. Like we were introduced to some new characters, and it was like they were there and gone, but they were supposed to be these really important characters to the plot. And I had to reread a couple things back because, like, no spoilers, but like multiple people die in this book, and I had to reread sections to be like, did they die? Because that was a rather anticlimactic exit from the plot. I would have taken 100 more pages if that had meant we got to know these other characters more, and I felt any kind of emotional impact when people are entering and leaving the plot. Yeah, I don't know. So that's one that I would say still give it a try. I would definitely be interested in returning to it and seeing what the actual traditionally published version is like, because it It started so strong. But that is A Land So Wide by Erin A. Craig. Absolutely great. Like, especially if this is coming out in October, perfect autumn. Ooh, I just would love for her to revisit that last 50%. So that's my mixed review. A Land So Wide. But now for our next read, I don't know what to go into. I have so many arcs. This one, just a quick shout out because it's coming out either this month or next month. This says April 25th, but I thought it was coming out earlier. Anyway, this, full disclaimer, is by my personal friend, Sarah, so I'm biased, but this is Meet Me at Blue Hour. I read her previous book, The Space Between Here and Now, and I really liked that. She writes young adult, and I think it's more on like the younger end of young adult, but she's able to kind of tackle these very dark topics, a lot of like loss and grief and things like that, just really well. So I'm excited for this one. And this is apparently Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind meets Past Lives. Oh God, Sarah, oh no. In this emotional, gripping story of two childhood friends navigating the fallout of one, erasing their memories of the other. Jesus. Sarah she likes to put people in pain. She also likes playing with memory. That's a theme in her books, and I just really love that. So yeah, I'm gonna save this just because I have the physical and it's not on NetGalley, and I'm gonna say that it's good because it's by Sarah. But that is one to keep your eye out for if that sounds interesting to you. I also have this one that sounds interesting. It's called House of the Beast by Michelle Wong. This is coming out in August as well. Oh, Michelle Wong is originally a graphic novel illustrator for The Legend of Korra. And this is her debut about a young woman who strikes a deal with a mysterious and alluring god to seek revenge on her aristocratic family. And this actually includes illustrations by the author. So yeah, I'm gonna put this down as well because I've got, again, NetGalley killing me. I'm still very much in a fantasy mood, so I'm going to read my T. Kingfisher. I can't help it. I can't have a T. Kingfisher book on my e-reader and not read it. We're gonna read Hemlock and Silver. This is also coming out in August. It's by T. Kingfisher. Let me look it up. Oh, all right. It's a Snow White retelling. Open the page. Okay. Oh my God. The cover looks so pretty. Hemlock and Silver. It has 84 ratings. Not many, but it's at a 4.3. From the New York Times best-selling and Hugo Award-winning author T. Kingfisher comes Hemlock and Silver, a dark reimagining of Snow White, steeped in poison, intrigue, and treason of the most magical kind. Healer Anya knows little of politics, but much of poisons. When she's summoned to treat the mysterious illness afflicting the king's daughter, she finds herself against the clock, desperate to track down the source of the poison killing Princess Snow. I love when we are following a side character. I love it. Okay, but the chance discovery of a strange alternate world inside a magic mirror leads Anya to darker discoveries, including what really happened to Snow's dead sister Rose, and why their mother seemingly went mad and cut out her heart. Aided by a taciturn bodyguard, T. Kingfisher! Sorry, a bodyguard, a narcissistic cat, and a late Renaissance understanding of the scientific method, Anya must navigate the mysteries of the mirror world before the dark queen that dwells within rises to threaten them all. Oh my God, her retelling of Rapunzel was so good. I am locked in for a Snow White retelling, and I'll read you the first. Again, this could be changed before the properly published version, but let me just read you the first sentence because it's so good. I had just taken poison when the king arrived to inform me that he had murdered his wife. I'm going to take a mini break from reading just to kind of think about what I just read. And then I'm going to dive into Hemlock and Silver, and I'm very excited. So on to the next. Okay, good morning, friends. Checking in at the 11% mark for Hemlock and Silver.
This so far is reading very similar to all of her kind of Paladin's Grace or like Clockwork Boys or even Sword Heart. It's just cozy and comforting. We're dealing with this woman who is 35, 36. She's mostly obsessed with antidotes, okay? She has to correct the king when he pulls up on the first page and is like, word on the street is you're obsessed with poisons. And she's like, antidotes. She just likes to help people and she hates that there are things that she can't help with. She saw someone when she was very young pass away from accidentally eating hemlock, and she was like, how could a little plant just like take a life away? And so she has devoted her life to understanding poisons and trying to find antidotes. So as we learned about, what this book is about is someone seems to be poisoning Princess Snow, and the king has come to our girl Anya because he knows her father in some way because he's like a merchant, and he mentioned in passing years ago that Anya was like really good with poisons and antidotes and things like that. The king is like, every person I have tried to get to help my daughter has been, number one, unsuccessful, and number two, connected to me in some way. He's like, if someone on the inside is trying to kill my entire family, I want someone fully removed. And he's like, this random girl in this little town in like the corner of my kingdom who has no ties to anything except for her little healing shop. Let me get her to take a look. And so now she is heading to the palace. She's a classic T. Kingfisher heroine. She is huge. She is super tall, super broad. She says she just looks exactly like her dad. She doesn't give a shit about clothes because she's like, they're probably gonna catch fire in my laboratory anyway. According to her sister, she looks like a nun, and Anya is like, well, people listen to nuns, so I'm gonna keep that style. She's just, you know, she's kind of frantic, is really anxious. She overthinks everything she says, and she's just got a really funny inner monologue. She's spending quite a bit of time setting the scene, which is okay. I know it's gonna come into play later, but I love T. Kingfisher's characters so much that I just want to hear more from everyone. She's got bodyguards already. It's a good, cozy time so far. I think this is gonna go by really quickly. I'll see you then. 30% mark. It's moving a little slow. There was just something mentioned that I think it changes the whole story. It's reading very much, like I said, like Sword Heart. I personally, like Sword Heart, I got a little tired of that writing style. So if you liked Sword Heart, I think you'd love this one. There's just like a little bit less action than even with Thornhedge. Even though I wouldn't say that Thornhedge necessarily was like action-packed, I felt like the plot moved swiftly to like where we really started to get to know the story. And I'm at 30%, and I feel like right now is when the story is really gonna, she just got to the palace. The story is really gonna start going. So far, it's just been her kind of like fretting and being just insecure in her abilities and feeling just like a fish out of water. And I'm excited for her to start thriving. I'm excited to see her in situations that she's confident in, because I don't love reading about, this is in first person, so like all of her, you can tell that it's just self-hate, like the way that she talks about herself, it's just how she views herself. But I kind of don't love reading about that. I'm excited to see her be in her element. So anyway, yes, my sheets, my comforter is clean, the air quality is crap, so I'm gonna stay inside for kind of a lot of the day. Just pitter patter, do some chores, read, get up and stretch every once in a while, and I'll catch you when I have another update. But yeah, something just happened, like a blink and you miss it kind of detail, but I'm so ready. Goodness gracious me. I started that book at like 10:30. It's 4:30. My brain is turning off. Got all my chores done for the day. I kept kind of like getting up every once in a while. Drank a lot of water, which is great. I'm just waiting for the air quality to get better so I can go outside and go for a walk and exercise. So productive day, but I did finish the book. So this book is about, actually let me check. I think the book is like almost 400 pages long. Yeah, the book is 368 pages long. I would have liked it to be more similar to Thornhedge, which was 120 pages. So this felt the same way I felt about Sword Heart, and I know people love Sword Heart, so I feel like that's probably a green flag for some people. I just felt like for Sword Heart, the story wasn't quite strong enough for it to be as long as it was. I think that Thornhedge was so just hard-hitting and perfect because she did it quickly. So this one really, I struggled in the middle because certain, like, the plot beats didn't happen until much later than I'm used to, and so I just found myself being kind of impatient. However, I just love her writing. So it wasn't necessarily that it wasn't a good book, it was more of I was looking for something a little more fast-paced. I thought that the actual magic system was really cool. Like, once we get introduced to the mirror, I understood why that part was so long, because she was creating this whole new magic system that was quite fun. So yeah, it just wasn't exactly what I wanted, but I think some people would really, specifically the Sword Heart girlies, would really like it. So for our next book, I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna go for a little walk. I'm gonna stand. I was going to read this book next, but I only have the PDF sent to me by my friend Susan. And PDFs on my Kindle, it makes the font like tiny and you can't adjust it. So I'm gonna read that next, but I want to tell you about it in case I run out of time and can't get to it. So similar to Meet Me at Blue Hour, this is written by a close friend of mine, Susan Lee, and it's her new book, The Romance Rivalry. It's actually coming out in May, so it's coming out very soon. And let me tell you what it's about. So I already kind of know, I've already read the first chapter, I guess. Okay, full disclaimer, Susan loves a K-drama, loves romance books. This is gonna be so meta. It is a romance book about romance books, and I live. I live. So, okay, The Romance Rivalry. She's read every romance except her own. Irene Park loves romance novels. So much so, she's made a career of them as an online book reviewer with a massive following. But Irene's real-life dating story, non-existent. So when she starts her freshman year at college, she sets her sights on finding true love using the one thing she really understands, romance book tropes. If only it were that easy. Enter Aiden Jun, Irene's online book review rival and biggest nemesis. We love a booktuber drama book, okay? When Aiden challenges her to see who can find love by trope first, he becomes the one person standing in her way to getting everything she wants, both professionally and personally too. So when the competition takes an unexpected turn, forcing the two of them to have to partner in the ultimate trope, fake dating, Susan, Irene is not prepared for everything she believed about romance, and Aiden, to flip on its head. As Irene tackles the challenges of college life and struggles to find what she really wants for herself, all while trying to win the race for love, Irene realizes the answers may not be found in a romance novel. Happily ever after seems so easy on the page. But for Irene to find her ultimate happy ever after, she'll have to get her nose out of a book and become the main character of her own story. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna read that later if I don't get to it. Super biased because I love Susan, but does that not sound juicy? Fake dating, book reviewers going at... All right, but what we're gonna read next, because it's actually like safely on my Kindle, the newest book by C.G. Drews, who wrote Don't Let the Forest In, which I enjoyed from last year. So this is Hazelthorn. Coming out in October. It's at a 4.77 with almost 200 ratings. That's high. Okay. This is young adult horror, gothic fantasy. Yes, please. All right, here we go. C.G. Drews returns with another deeply unsettling and yet hauntingly beautiful tale of murder and botanical body horror. Evander has lived like a ghost in the forgotten corners of the Hazelthorn estate ever since he was taken in by his reclusive billionaire guardian, Byron Lennox Hall, when he was a child. For his safety, Evander has been given 3 ironclad rules to follow. He can never leave the estate, he can never go into the gardens, and most importantly, he can never again be left alone with Byron's charming, underachieving grandson, Laurie. The last rule has been in place ever since Laurie tried to kill Evander 7 years ago, and yet somehow Evander is still obsessed with him. What? Evander, no! When Byron suddenly dies, Evander inherits Hazelthorn's immense Gothic mansion and acres of sprawling grounds. Pause. I mentioned in my previous video how much I was excited to reread The Secret Garden this spring. Gothic mansion with gardens and secrets. Yeah, it's right up my alley. It's exactly what I want to read right now. He also inherited the entirety of the Lennox Hall family's vast wealth. Damn, sorry, Laurie. There's just one caveat. He must choose a new guardian from amongst Laurie's scheming, backstabbing relatives to help maintain the estate until he turns 18. Except Evander's sure his guardian was murdered, and Laurie may be the only one who can help him find the killer before they come for Evander next. Perhaps even more concerning is how the overgrown garden is refusing to stay behind its walls, slipping its vines and spores deeper into the house with each passing day. As the family's dark secrets unravel alongside the growing horror of their terribly alive, bloodthirsty garden, Evander needs to find out what he's really inheriting before the garden demands to be fed once more. Oh yeah, that's that, dare I say. Like I said, I'm gonna do this later. I'm gonna dive into this later, but thank you for being here, still trucking along with me. I'll see you when I see you.
I'm 20% in to this book. I'm on chapter 7. It is delicious. I mentioned how I wanted to do a Secret Garden reread recently, and this is like if the Secret Garden were horror, gay, and a murder mystery. Oh my god.
Okay, I'm so sleepy that I'm gonna go wash my face and fall asleep, but I just need to give you an update. I am 37% of the way through eating this up. So some people might not like it because it's taking forever for things to happen just because of how descriptive and flowery the writing is, and I personally love it because I signed up for a gothic fairy tale. This author describes everything in such a just a way that you wouldn't expect. They're coming up with certain similes and I'm just like, whoa, I would have never, talking about like just like so many things are personified and just described in a way that I feel fully enveloped in this story. This morning when I was reading in a cafe, I kind of stopped and I was like, I feel like I'm sitting in cold dirt in like a positive way. Like it just felt, I felt fully drawn in. Whatever the heck is going on between Evander and Laurie, I want to know. And this author is autistic and likes to write characters that are also autistic. And so the way that Evander deals with certain things, and a lot of it is like just the world is quite overwhelming for him, but I think he's still a really strong character. And I think you see his strength through his like quote unquote weaknesses, what he sees as weaknesses. So overall, I just love it. And I think it's in a weird way, like I said, it feels very like if the Secret Garden were told through the eyes of the boy that is kind of kept in his room. And it's got like really weird gay tension, a ton of botanical horror where the garden is trying to eat them alive basically, and now a dash of like Knives Out. I something about this is exactly what I wanted to read, and I am just loving it. Like I said, I can tell there are gonna be people who don't love it just because of the writing style, but this hits for me. This hits for me, and I'm really excited to continue it once I take a nap. It is only God. It's only 7:40. But I'm so sleepy. So yeah, I'll catch you in a little bit, but so good. Okay, this is Hazelthorn by C.G. Drews. Finished. I will tell you about it later. Really good. Really good. Was it kind of predictable? Yeah. Was it still really good? Yeah. More cohesive thoughts tomorrow. Good night.
Oh, hello. I'm back. New day, new me. All right. Hazelthorn. Hold on. Today is peppermint tea that I let steep for too long, so it's probably gonna be strong. Yeah. All right. Hazelthorn. What the doctor ordered. I understand there are gonna be people who don't like it, and I get it, but for me, it just came at exactly the right time and was exactly what I wanted to read. The writing is so descriptive. We can't mention a single item without having it be described in such a glorious and brutal and kind of disgusting way, which makes everything move very slowly. But for me, I just needed that. And yeah, I really liked it. It was so predictable. I feel like there were the parts that I cared about were quite predictable, but I didn't really care. I was just excited. Sometimes when things are predictable, it makes me look at the characters and be like, how are you so dumb that you haven't figured this out? But in this case, it was so predictable and I was just so excited for the characters to figure it out. Yeah, I actually really liked it. And I don't have much more to say. So that one was great. Thank you, Hazelthorn. I'm currently reading, how far along am I? Because I definitely fell asleep while reading this. I fell asleep with it like I'm only 22% of the way in, but I'm currently reading just because this is not an arc. This is already out, but I have one day left to read it from the library and I can't renew it. So this is Upon a Starlit Tide. This is supposed to be a Little Mermaid retelling. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure how I feel about it. I'm 22% of the way in, and there's just a lot of stuff going on that I don't care about. It takes place in the 1700s. We have a girl who finds a man, he's not fully on shore, he's like floating just off of shore, clinging to driftwood. There was a huge storm, his ship went down. So she goes into the water and takes him out. There's this kind of superstition in her town, and her whole town is just the sea people, like traders and, you know, sailors, fishermen, etc. So the kind of superstition is that you don't take a dying man out of the water. Like, the sea has already claimed him. You don't get to drag him out, or else you upset the balance. Like, if he's on the shore, sure, call an ambulance. But she kind of broke that balance by going to save him. And pretty sure, this is not a spoiler because it's talked about in like the first chapter, but she has some disfigurement of her feet and it's only soothed by water. That's all I'm gonna say. But I don't know, like, I'm only 22% of the way through, but the guy seems to be maybe the villain. Like, I don't like him. I do not like the main lead. We have a couple other characters at play. She's got some evil stepsisters. I don't know. Based on the premise, I should really like it, but I'm not so convinced. So I'm gonna continue reading this. I am also filming another video that's coming out either next week or next week. I'm trying to write more and I'm going to take you on that journey. So I actually was writing all this morning. And so I need to read this, and then I have an appointment. I got Pilates class again, tonight. So yeah, what else? I like worked really hard this morning. So I feel like I can sit down and read and get far enough into this to understand my own thoughts. I definitely was going like in and out. I was just reading in bed, man. It feels so good. So, okay. In we go. Well, not much time has passed. I am on page 110 and unfortunately I will be putting it down. I do want to know. I might skim it, honestly, just because I want to know, like, what's the deal with the good guy who's probably a bad guy. But yeah, I'm 100 pages in and nothing has happened. It's basically just being like, my sisters are so jealous of me. And that's it. Like, they're like getting ready for the ball. And so they're just fighting over who gets to wear what color for over 20 pages. And I'm just kind of like, not into it. So I'm going to end it here. I'm going to end the video here as well. So what a strange little week of reading this has been. Katabasis. Yeah, really, the more that I think about it, like, here's the thing and let me be clear, I am not comparing these two books. One thing that drives me crazy with Metal Slinger, it's on the top of my mind because I just made the plot summary, when people say, like, I loved the female main character, or I loved the chemistry between those two characters, like, point to it on the actual page. I think that it's like a really cool thing that authors can write and then the reader can embellish in their brains without even realizing it. So with Katabasis, I feel the same, where the actual time that those two characters, Alice and Peter, spent talking to each other was so small, actually. Like, they debated theory a lot, but in terms of like actually conversing outside of debate, they really didn't talk that much. And so thinking back, where I'm like, oh, you know, at the beginning and then at the very end, I really liked their chemistry, but I'm sort of like, but what chemistry? Like, I really think that I filled in so much. Like, as I'm trying to return to the plot and be like, what did I like about it? I really think I filled stuff in, which I think is, like I said, pretty cool for an author to be able to write in a way that a reader could do that. But it just kind of sucks that, like, actually on the page, like, Peter, he got, if you take out that one chapter that is very Peter centered, we know nothing about Peter. He has no personality. Yeah. So the more that I'm thinking about Katabasis, usually books get better when I'm thinking about them. This one, not so much, because I'm questioning, like, what actually happened on the page, you know? But the concept and like what I'm able to fill in myself, I want to like it so much more than I did. So yeah, I'm so interested in hearing your thoughts. I really feel like I really wonder if RF Kuang has read Alice in Quantumland. Also, the fact that she named her character Alice, like, it really felt like this was just the plot was a convenient tool to teach us about certain classics and logic and things like that. Like, that's really what it felt like, which is not how it was marketed whatsoever. So just confusing, I think. What else did I read? I feel like I haven't really changed any opinions other than that. Like, A Land So Wide, still kind of a letdown. Hazelthorn, still really enjoyed. Especially, I believe it's coming out in October. That's gonna be perfect. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Thank you for being along on the ride with me. And if you've read, I know that more of the arcs of Katabasis are coming out. Could you let me know what you think? No spoilers, or add a spoiler thingy in the comments. Yes, and you know what? Sunset on the Reaping, I've changed my mind. Now I think I'm gonna dive into it. Maybe next week, because I have so many books from the library right now. But yeah, I feel like I'm getting FOMO. I want to get back into the Hunger Games world. But okay, yeah, I will leave you. Thank you so much. And see you next week. Okay? Bye.